Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Karen.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Just
Good.
waiting for Janet, I think.
Okay.
So, how's life?
Life is good. The weather's good.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoying the weather. Yeah, I was just in Phoenix, so it's 100 degrees. So
Oh my gosh.
it's crazy.
That's too warm.
Yeah, it's nuts. It was like an oven. So, but you just stay indoors, I guess.
It's 70 here.
Oh yeah, it's 58 here. So yeah, it'll be in the 70s in a little bit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a high of 75.
Where are you, Jamie?
North Carolina, Charlotte.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think I heard a little Southern accent there, Jamie.
Well, I was born and raised in Memphis, so every now and then certain words come out or things that I say. So like certain words I forget, I'll say them before I go and people will be like, what? So like I'll say wash or earn or root, which is
Yeah.
root and stuff like that. So yeah, certain words it comes out. And then yeah, so
Hmm.
Sharon, can you hear me? This is Sandy. Sharon, were you in Lanesboro recently?
Sharon, you're muted.
All right. No, I'm not in Lanesboro. I'm in the Twin Cities.
No, were you there like a
No.
month ago or something? Oh,
No.
okay. Okay, so
I
you're
think you've seen me, right?
your doppelganger. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
I have
I
a
was-
few of them running around apparently.
Yeah, I was there with my husband and a woman that looked like you walked by with a man. And I'm like, I know her. She's in Mickey's group, but I don't know her name.
No.
And so- okay, never mind.
I'm going to turn this light back off because it's giving me bad vibes here.
Okay.
Ooh.
And I haven't had my breakfast yet, so I may like scoot over to the side and eat my breakfast. So I'm while I'm listening.
So the paintings of food don't help, right?
Right. Yeah, this is early for me to get going.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I get up early, but I have a lot of things that I do before I get on with my day.
Uh-huh.
And so I have meditation and journaling and I write in my artist pages. And so that all takes time.
Wow. It does.
Yeah. So I'm going to just slide over here and I'll listen while I'm eating my breakfast.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just checking to see if I got a message from Janet. No. Okay. Well, I suppose we should just start. Oh, no. That's not it. Be right back. I'm gonna try share screen again and see if that works. There it is. So all of you guys are up there. Let's see.
Can you go into presentation mode? There you go. Karen, you're muted.
Okay. I'm used to being muted.
There you are. Now you're back.
Yes, okay. Well, I just had gone out and got a few examples of people who have been keeping journals for a while. And so when you look at them, this is how they worked. You know, Leonardo had everything that he ever did in his journals. And obviously he drank coffee, so. And Marie Curie, and then over here is, oops, gotta back up. Anyway, gotta get this down at the bottom. Let's see. You. I don't know why this isn't giving me a view, but it isn't. Sorry, it's just kind of weird here. Because I have the sheet over here. Okay. So some of the things I want to share with you are the benefits of journaling and some journal formats that you may be familiar with and some subjects to explore and some practice, little practice. The other thing I want to talk about before we start is about writing. There's some controversy about handwriting or typing, and all my journaling is done writing. And one of the reasons for that is that I don't have to plug it in, and it never runs out of juice. So it might run out of ink, but it doesn't run out of being able to use it. But one of the things about writing is that it's like drawing. So it stimulates a very different part of the brain than typing does. And because of the the motor coordination required to actually write is different from just tapping on your keyboard. And they've done tests on school-age children, and it's very different for them. And there is some concern about the fact that we're dropping cursive from our curriculum in the grade schools. And they've gone to printing instead of doing cursive because printing is easier. They've seen it on the screen. They know what it looks like. And it's kind of like if you don't teach them cursive, then they're not going to be able to read things from the past that are out there. So I don't know, do you write now, or do you type on your journals?
I write.
I write on mine, in mine every day.
Uh-huh.
I write also.
Yeah. Well, good for you. One of the things it does is it stimulates this part of your brain up right here, the reticular activation system. And that's the little guy that sees everything. They see everything and they decide what's important. And you're telling them what's important by what you do. And so when you're writing, it activates that a little differently, a little better than typing, because it affects all of your senses. And it's also the area that's the fight or flight area. So when you get scared, this kicks in also.
So I have a comment.
Yeah,
So I've noticed, and I think this is probably a somewhat universal, is when I type, I edit myself a lot more.
you do.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's because of my past, my jobs, or if it's just because I can. But I find myself editing, which slows me down and changes the way, it's not a creative thinking, it's more of a
Edit.
critical. It's more
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah, and you can't see that you did that once you change it, unless you're tracking it.
Right,
Whereas if you're writing and you cross something out and do something else, you know that you did that.
right.
And you're still keeping your pen moving though. But yeah, I agree. I think that I do that all the time when you're typing anything, a comment or whatever, your editor kicks in almost immediately
Mhm.
because you know you can change it really fast. But handwriting is is different in that way, in that because you're involved in making the marks, it kind of puts the stop on the editor in your head because you're busy.
Right.
Yeah. So now that we know that, let's do a mini morning pages. We'll do about 4 minutes of just writing. Don't take your pen off the paper. Okay, go. Was that the longest 4 minutes you ever had?
Is it up already?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it seemed like a long time.
Yeah, but it was 4 minutes.
I believe
Now, if you're actually doing the morning pages like Julia Cameron wants you to, she wants you to do 3 pages, one side, 3 pages in the morning before you do anything else. I did that for a while. I bet you did too, Sharon. Did you, or did you still do that?
I have done it off and on, and I'm currently doing it and have
Uh-huh.
been for a couple of months.
Yeah, I'm off and on too. I haven't done it for a while because I have to get up really early in order to do that. I
Right.
have so much other stuff to do, but it really is helpful. I mean, just even to do, I don't know what you got on your page right now, but I was surprised at what came out for me. How about you?
I actually wrote about something that I've noticed that happens when I start writing. A lot of times, at the beginning of when I write, my handwriting feels kind of jerky and stiff.
Mhm.
And as I go along, it gets more, it flows a little easier, but I noticed that tension in my hand when I started, and I've already done writing today. So what I attributed it to in what I wrote down was that I think my conscious mind is performing or thinking that it's performing a task. So I have to think about it.
Uh-huh.
And that is kind of causing me to, again, go back to the editor, self-critical, whatever mode, and
Mhm.
decide whether or not what I'm writing is worthwhile. And then I
Well, that's-
remembered something that I don't remember her name, and I wish I did, but she's a comedian, and she starts her day in her practice by doing a spiral.
Uh-huh.
And so she just does a big spiral with her arm, her hand, and makes her
Mhm.
arm move.
Yep.
And so the question I had to myself was, what would come out at the end of the spiral? And so I started doing a spiral, and I didn't get, our 4 minutes were up, but it was like, I was wondering how my thoughts would change after I did the spiral.
Well, that's a good question. And one of the things that they've done in researching doodling is that doodling is another thing that actually stimulates your creativity. A lot of people doodle during meetings. It's not like their brain is, doing anything bad, but the doodling actually helps the creative area because it kicks that editor aside. Jillian.
When, depending on what time of day I journal, I know that it changes of what I have going on. In the morning time when I journal, so like this is about the time that I start, I kind of take a moment and write no matter where I'm at. It's usually about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
And usually what I'm writing about is whatever was heavy on my heart the day before,
Uh-huh.
whether that was a conversation or moment, whatever was heavy on my heart the night before when I went to sleep, I usually wake up and write about that. So I always put the date on the top of every one of my entries. And yeah, and so that's what I wrote about, what was heavy on my heart last night.
I
And
did the same.
Yeah, and I'm a huge doodler.
Good.
I will
Good for
show
your
you.
brain.
This is meeting doodle during, I'm a huge doodler. And I noticed that I also normally doodle on most of my pages. You'll see this kind of thunderstorm right here.
Oh, uh-huh.
So usually my doodling is circular. I always wondered if that meant something.
Well, if you look at when I have a client doodle and they're doodling this like up and down like that, they're usually pretty stressed out. And I think that this actually helps relax, is more relaxing.
Yeah,
than-
I did.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
And
more
I do it like
relaxing.
pretty fast. This is like, and like what the circulars are.
Yeah. I do some doodling. I don't know what you write in, but there's all kinds of things that, you know, just stuff when I'm in meetings. And sometimes faces. So this sometimes, you just have stuff. But the important part to remember is that we're not talking about a product. What you produce in your journal isn't something that's going to be out there for critical appraisal. It's for you. And so even though you think it's crap, what you're writing is crap, well, great. That leaves a space in your brain for something else. And the process of writing, process of creating that journal entry is what's important. Not is it beautiful or is it wonderful, but that you did it. Sandy, do you journal at all?
Actually, I don't journal. I mean, I have in the past, only for a short time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I haven't been doing it. So this would be something that I can start anew.
Kept a diary in high school until my brother found it.
Oh,
And it was one of those little locking ones, those crazy little ones. Not a
yes.
very good lock, and he had a really easy time doing that. So
That little stinker.
yeah. Well, the thing was, I was keeping a diary, but I was making things up, just kind of a story of the life I'd like to have. So they're telling people that I have this boyfriend, they have all these other things. And I'm like, no, well, you have it right here. And, well, yeah, but that was just a fantasy life that I think I'd like to have. And so I stopped journaling. I stopped doing a diary. And there's some people are a little confused about the difference between a diary and a journal. And they're kind of the same thing in that you're keeping track of a diary. Usually they're keeping track of daily things. My grandmother used to keep track of like corn prices and stuff like that. She would just create a couple of pages then for every month, and then what she kept track of, because they were on the farm, was the price of corn, maybe the weather, just little things like that. But in a journal, what you're really trying to get at is how you feel about things, and how did the price of corn make you feel? And so we go into that. I really didn't realize that I was journaling when I was a young mom with 2 kids at home and working 2 jobs. I would think of things and I would just write them down on a piece of paper, and I threw in a shoebox for a long time. And then I started thinking, well, what the hell is in there? And I had dated a lot of them, some of them I hadn't, but I eventually wrote them into a notebook, and I started from there. And so you don't have to have, like a leather bound volume thing. You can actually write anywhere at all. Good morning, Kimberly. How are you?
Fine. I'm just not really very presentable, so I'm keeping my camera off most of the time. Sorry.
Well, you know what? We don't care.
But I've been here since the start. I'm a journaler. I do journal in
Uh-huh.
different ways at different times. I think sometimes it's been really powerful. When I went through a particularly difficult time, I kept a gratitude journal for a long time where I would write down things I was grateful for. I have like a journal and I just do different things in it. I don't have a lot of different journals typically.
Mhm.
Maybe I do because I kind of have one for business but sometimes I sort of write a conversation or a letter or a prayer. Sometimes I bullet point things to just kind of get them out of my psyche because they're kind of heavy. Sometimes I write about the day before, like I did this morning.
Mhm.
Sometimes I find a quote or I read something or I'm in a class and it sort of triggers something I want to explore and I write about that. So I don't really have any rules around it.
Good.
I have kept a gratitude journal before. That was my latest journaling exercise, and that was just a few years ago. But that was really very helpful. Very helpful. I do it before I went to sleep.
Mhm.
Well, there are a lot of benefits to keeping a journal, and three of them that are biggest are that there are you can explore possibilities and you can express the process of life rather than just, saying, well, I went to the store. You'd be doing other things. And it's also gaining a personal historical perspective. If you're looking back at your journals at all, you can go back and see, well, I think this feels like something I did before, something that happened before. And you can kind of go back and look. And I don't keep my journals out for very long after I'm done with the pages. I put them away, but I know where they are. And they're still waiting there for me. So when you're doing exploration, it's kind of interesting because it really creates a safe space where you can explore any and every idea that comes to your mind. So sometimes that's the best way to get rid of the overwhelm in your brain, which is what we did this morning, just a little bit ago, those 4 minutes. And you'd be surprised how much you can get. When you write it down, it's outside of you. And most therapists have their clients use a journal because that's what it does. It gets it out of your head and onto a page. Not that you would forget about it, but that it's not still in there chasing around. Sometimes it's still in there chasing around, but not as fast. So your brain just, has so much to do that these things that are in there that you are worried about or thinking about, or you don't, and you're not conscious of them necessarily, but they're taking up space in your brain. Some of the questions that you can ask about journaling is what do you want more of in your life? How would you like to grow? And what would you like to change about your life? So should we take one of those questions and just write about it for a little bit? Pick one of three.
You want us to answer those questions? What do you want more of in your life?
You don't have to answer the questions, but you can pick one of them and just free write on it. You can do that for about maybe 5 minutes. Or you can answer all of them if you want to.
You want us to journal about this now?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, that was 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody want to share what they wrote? Well, okay, I'll go first. I would like to change how I manage my time. I tend to think something isn't going to take as much time as it actually does, like appointments. The time is set, I have to be there at 10 o'clock, so it takes about 20 minutes to get there according to Google. I forget that it is actually road time and doesn't include going to the garage, getting the car out, and actually getting on the road and parking the car when I get there and get into the office. And so I'm late. I know this, but it happens, it happens all the time. And when I'm making dinner, I'll look at a recipe, it says it's going to take 30 minutes. Well, that did not include chopping the onions or some of the other stuff. So it just 30 minutes was not the right time. But so I'd like to figure out how I can do that, because I end up late or dinner's late or whatever. So these are things I know in my head, but somehow it doesn't translate to getting there.
I have a
Anybody else?
recommendation about the recipes. I've noticed and think it's very helpful when recipes put down prep time.
Yeah,
So some of them do, and I appreciate that. So you could go in and write down in your recipes that before you get started, you have to add your prep time.
yes. Well, some of them look like they have done that, but actually they haven't. Oh, well, and also I'm kind of slow. I'm not a good chopper. How about you, Kimberly?
You want to know how I cook, or do you want to know what I wrote about?
I want to know what you wrote. Well, both actually.
I think you should invoke help and have someone else help you with the chopping, and then it gets done faster. I don't really want to share what I wrote because it's very personal, but I
Oh,
wrote
okay.
just about, I lost my parents last year, and just sort
I
of the
know,
grief
yeah.
and the process, and trying to sort of, I'm tired of some of the things that some of that period of time that I've been in, and I'm sort of mostly out of it, but so just kind of some of the changes and what I want more of and what I want less of. Sometimes you descend into long, dark, hard periods, and it kind of clings to you a little bit as you move back into other things. So
I know. Yeah. How about you, Sandy? The newbie.
What I wrote about mostly has to do with my home environment. And wanting more space, less clutter, more relaxation, a bigger house with more, so I can entertain and have people stay overnight and, have family and friends over and make it more comfortable. So mostly like that, those kind of things. So, and like that'd probably mean moving to a different neighborhood, which, I like where I live. So just that, that's what I'd like to change.
How about you, Jamian?
I answered all three of them.
You're fast.
Some of them were longer than others. Like I want more of in my life is consistent love. And what I meant by that is like, I want all my worlds to collide in love. So my business, my work, my personal, to all of those things to collide in love. And But the main one that I wrote the most about was I'd like to change is my temperament some more. I said there's nothing really more to say, but sometimes it doesn't need my opinion, or I can stop letting things alter my entire day, my entire evening. Yeah, just really managing my temperament more is something that I'd like to change
Yeah,
more of.
more of. Oh, well, those are all good things.
Move, Luna. Sorry, I'm talking to the dog.
So expressing yourself. Now you've seen a lot of different journals, but you know, like art, music, and dance are forms of expression. Journaling is kind of that way too. And you know, whether you're doing Bible journaling or bullet journaling or writing longhand in a leather-bound book filled with empty pages, you're expressing yourself in a very profound way. There, no two journals are alike, and there's great power in having an outlet to share whatever is in the forefront of your mind. So I think one of the things that people like to do is try to figure out what their passion is. And that's a funny thing, because they say, you know, if you find your passion, go with your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, I don't know about that. But actually the whole part about, you know, making your journal your own and not worrying about what's in there. You know, sometimes there's just no words. So you just have whatever is happening. Maybe it's not in words. And like I said, it's not about it's not about the product. I took a few years ago, I started in a coaching program that was actually had to do with using art to help people. And I think it goes a long way to doing that. But I was hesitant about taking it because art was involved and I'm not an artist. And so that's where I got the whole thing about, you know, that it's not the product, it's the process. So they weren't really looking for artists. They were looking for coaches who were going to be using art to help people get a better handle on where they were at. And that really does help a lot. If you use, I like to use tarot cards sometimes because that imagery helps people. And it gives them a way, you know, art is immediate. It's like music. There's no judgment there, it's just there. And when you look at art, it's there. You've already seen it. Your brain is processing it or not processing it, but it's not like reading or having someone talk to you. It's different. And for a lot of people, just being able to doodle is really enough to help them get out, give them a little budge.
I like what you said about that. I think it's really helpful sometimes if you have a deck of like oracle cards, or even they can be whatever from your spiritual tradition or whatever, but something where you can sort of shuffle them and pull something with your energy for the day, and then let that be sort of a writing prompt.
Yeah, that's good. I have a lot of tarot decks because I used to work for a tarot person.
Oh, did you
publisher, I
work?
mean.
Did you
I
work
worked
for
for-
Llewellyn?
I did. So did
Oh,
Sharon.
did you know Brady Hegberg?
No.
Mm.
Did you know Brady Hedberg, Sharon? This is the card I drew for today. The Magician. But no, I worked there for 8 years. So I got to see every tarot deck they produced in 8 years, which is a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things too. Like they did angel cards, I think, and
Mhm.
other. Yeah.
Well, it takes you to a different place. And it's more, I think that a lot of people, for me, my spirituality is attached to that. That whole idea that there's something else out there and that you can connect with it in different ways. So it's, I think it's important to do that, to do the drawing, to do all these things that are not like the rest of your life. And journaling might be one of those things. And I think the clarity that you get from journaling is really what is one of the most important things. Now, the other thing about it is remembering what happened. I look back on my very early journals and I thought, oh my God, I don't remember that. It's like photos, but not. Because a lot of times you don't have photos about your feelings. You don't have photos of how you handled that. You have a photo in your head and probably brought it back, and that also kind of helps you see where you were and where you are now. And if that's where you want to be. That's a good question for some people. Especially if I'm starting with a new client, say, who are you? Who are you? And so they've been kind of like we all do. We all get kind of covered over with other things that happen that we accommodate. One of the other things I think is important about journaling is that, we're human beings and what we want to be is whole and feel connected to ourselves and the world. But, what does that mean? That's a hard question because we're complicated. We're actually made up of 3 parts, body, mind, and spirit. And those 3 parts need to be in harmony. And when any of them are out of sync, it. And that's one way that journaling can be very helpful to you or anyone to bring that together. One of the things that people forget about is that they have all these roles that they've played in their life. The moment you come out of the womb, you have a role in life, maybe more than one. You're a daughter, you may be a sister, you might be a granddaughter, you might be all of these things. And as you go along life, all these other roles get added to it. You're a student, you're a mom, you're all these things. You're an artist, you're a writer, all of these roles are there. And any of the roles that you had, like I had a role as a cookie chairperson for Girl Scouts. And I still look back at that time with some, a few scars, but I don't have that role anymore. And I don't have to put any energy into that. But they are there. So do you have roles that you are not using? I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's been part of this whole. So I sort of surprised myself when I did that little 5-minute writing. I mean, I didn't really write a lot, and yet I said a lot because what I found was that I wanted to be out of this. I wanted some more of this residual stuff. I'm sort of done with this, but I'm leaving it with gratitude. And it's been a really transforming period of time because my whole life was defined by other people. I had kids at home and I had parents I was caring for. And all of a sudden I empty nested and both my parents died. And I suddenly didn't have a context for myself in the world because I literally had never, ever been alone before, ever in my entire life. So, yeah, that whole thing about roles and how that connects us to our world. And then on top of it all, I moved from one area to another in order to take care of, you know, all the things. So I didn't have my community and my normal connections. So it sort of triggered a lot of things in me, like it brought a lot of things. It created space, I think, for me to deal with a lot of things, to confront a lot of things I didn't even know were there, because I spent most of my life as a single mom to 4 kids. And, you know, you're busy. Like sometimes the only privacy you get is your journal and probably not even a bathroom visit. So,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I had too much solitude and not even knowing what to do with it and how to craft that into a safe space and a new life. So I think that journaling has been good, and I've found that the days I don't do it are often qualitatively less good than the ones where I do, because it brings clarity. Like I surprise myself. I start writing about something and I think I know what I'm going to write, but as it flows out, sometimes I write something and I see what I've written and I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Sometimes when I go back and look at other journals or other writing that I've done that I'm not currently doing, I'm like, oh my God, that's pretty smart. Who wrote that? Because I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that person. And I have a similar situation when I got married when I was 17, had a baby when I was 18. I went from being my mother's daughter to someone's wife. And I had never been alone. I had never learned how to manage money. I didn't have a driver's license. I was totally dependent. And when an abusive partner, and when I left him, I had no idea what that would be. I mean, I was still a mom, but you know, having to provide was different than just, you know, so it is hard to find your role. It's hard to find out who you are now. And sometimes, you know, like I have moved through so many different things because I'm old, you know, I've been around a long time. And so the roles that I had, I mean, when you're a mom your whole life, but a mom when they're grown is different than a mom when they're little, and they don't have the same needs. And you get when you get older, as you know, I have more needs to be, because I'm not as health. Well, I'm healthy, but I have some physical problems. So, you know, those are things that just happen. And Sharon has a lot of roles too. So
I do. I can identify with that role of where Kimberly is. I found myself after my mother passed of being the oldest person in my family. And that was a very odd feeling to me, that I felt not only orphaned, because I was, but also there was no one out there anymore. My grandparents had passed, and I do have some family, but I'm not close with them. And so they're more family by marriage than, you know, for personal family. So I do understand that feeling. And the thing that Karen mentioned about you're always a mom forever and ever. It's just my role as a mom changes. And sometimes that's easier for me to remember than other times. I think about that probably more than I should, because I have other things to think about too, but nevertheless, it's there.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think sometimes as a mom, and when things change, sometimes we're so busy in the phase we're in, it kind of catches us unawares. And I think it can evoke like sadness or regret if we don't look at it the right way. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that's one thing journaling has been helpful for, because it sort of helps you redirect to look for other opportunities. I think you had that on one of your slides. You know, I think for a minute, because like you, I'm sort of all of a sudden I'm this 50-year-old matriarch, and it's like, what happened? And it's like suddenly being on a tightrope without a net. Not that anyone ever really did anything, but just knowing they were there. But yeah, it's kind of, you're in a period where you can't cling to what was, because that's definitely not what people need from you. But just discovering the way your roles change
Mhm.
and where the opportunities lie. There's also a real lack of education out there for how to relate to adult children. I think there's some, I think there is some room there that we could play with, maybe contribute to the overall, you know, knowledge in the world about that subject. It seems like something people haven't spent a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, my youngest is 29 this year, and I have a daughter who's 49 in later this month. And what I find myself doing frequently is remembering myself at their age.
Mhm.
And because I, as a mom, have a different perspective, and then I think back to who I was and
Mhm.
how I thought about things and how inconsiderate I was about just the things that I said and did and what my expectations were. And I was never a rude person, but I certainly did things that offended other people. So as a parent and as a child, I'm talking about in the parent-child relationship. And so I remember that now and try to modify take lessons from myself and modify my thoughts.
That's
I
good.
like that. Take lessons.
I
from
like
myself.
that.
Mhm. And Jamian is super mom.
You said I'm super mom?
Yeah,
No.
like you, I have raised two women for the world, and they're both contributing just amazing things. And so are your sons.
Yeah, they each are a little bit different. Kimberly, I definitely do identify with like, kind of finally being in a space where it's really just you. And so it's almost like reinventing yourself. And one of the things that I do is I journal. I have a journal just for like reinventing myself. And what used to cause me so much anxiety, like now is kind of a cool thing. I get to find it's like re-exploring the world. It's I journal about that a lot. Like it's helped me figure that out, navigating aging and losing people we love and that type of stuff, like, and then just waking up and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have 5 people, 6 people to feed dinner to. What's going on? Like my whole world is absolutely in absolute chaos at this
I
point.
know.
And
Sure.
just like learning to like, just the balance is just where, and so like I said, well, I guess if I, just like for years I paid for my kids to go to activities and do things, I just now pay for myself to go to activities and do things.
Yay.
Yeah.
And then I journal about that. And sometimes it's lonely and sometimes I love it and it doesn't feel that. And it's like finding a new normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
That's so true. It's kind of beautiful. My kids reach out to me and actually like encourage that. And they have so many ideas and things. Cooking was the worst because I love to cook. And I was used to having so many people over because when you're a good cook, you know this. And then all of a sudden it's like cooking for one, what's that? Like, so it was helpful. Like at first when the last daughter left and I could cook and share with mom because she needed it. And then all of a sudden she was gone too. And it's like this cooking for one thing I didn't cook for a while, and then I kind of found a new rhythm, and I started inviting people over, even though my space wasn't conducive to it. I just changed the way I entertained, Sandy. I called it hospitality rather than entertaining. You know, if you're coming for me and the food, we're good. If you're coming for the atmosphere,
Bring it
know.
with you.
Yeah, well, I definitely get that. I often have, will just call people because I need to get the urge to cook, and I'll say, hey, do you want to come over? I'm cooking dinner tonight, or I'm making breakfast right now. And so yep, I'm on my way. Like,
Jamie, and just so you know, I'll be in Minnesota the first week of December. I have a kid having a baby. I want to come over and be cooked for.
well, I live in Charlotte.
Oh, no. I thought you were in Minnesota.
No, I moved from Minnesota a couple years ago, but I'm in Charlotte. So whenever you want to come and visit.
I'm coming to South Carolina in the week of Thanksgiving for the girl. My youngest daughter's graduating, knock on wood, from Marine boot camp the day
Where in
before
South-
Thanksgiving.
We're in South Carolina.
Parris Island.
Oh, I'll have to Google where that's at, but we will connect. But yeah, I do a lot of journaling about right now is reflection on my life and
Okay.
what's going on heavily. And so like I remember my youngest son, he said to me, he said, Mom, he said, you better hurry up and find you somebody, because in a couple years I'm going to be gone, and then what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh. And then like his 18th birthday just passed. And like I've been at every milestone birthday. And this birthday, he decided he wanted to be with his friends back in Minnesota and not with me. And that was very sad. Like I was, like I'm starting to be chosen over him living his greatest life, which I want him to do that. And I want him to have those plans. But so right now, everything in my life is wrapped around like, like where I'm at. And then that's where I have to write so much off of it, because I think like people, that's when people go crazy. I think like people would save a lot of money in the paper company, and we'd probably lose a lot more trees if people journaled, but we'd probably save a lot of lives, because I can understand why, like, whether it be business or life, like people not being able to get off the joy and the heartbreak of that is life.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, so everything I journal about these days are like that is life, and it makes things feel not as heavy and
Mhm.
space wise and whatever not. So
I think that's part of getting it out of your head and onto paper, is that helps do that. And I think that's why so many therapists want you to use a journal, just to get that out there so you can look at it. Yeah. One of the things I noticed, Kimberly, about when my mother died was that not only did she die, but all the friends that she had that I only knew peripherally went with her, because I didn't really know how to contact them and hadn't thought about that there were all these other people in her life that were also in mine, but that we weren't friends. And when I would only see them when I was with her, or when she had something going on, and they would come there. And that kind of was a surprise to me. I don't know why, but yeah, so you lose a lot, not just the person that you love. Sandy, do you have anything to say?
So I don't have any significant role, I would say, that I used to have that I don't have now. But I guess I have a new role, and that, my father's 92, and he lives in Texas by himself in his house out in the country. So it's a lot of worry. But so now you know, like I'm, you know, the healthcare directive person, whatever you call that. And the power of attorney and all that stuff for his financial and for his health. And so I have a new role and I really, you know, kind of resist it. I mean, it is my role, but it's like, oh, you know, especially with him living so far away. So I worry about him a lot. So,
Yeah,
There's a hand
92
up on
living
my-
alone. Yeah,
oh no, pardon?
92 years old and living alone in the country.
Yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, he's out in the country, but he does have neighbors. Like he has somebody on each side of him and actually
Uh-huh.
somebody behind him. And then there's people across the street too. But in general, the houses are really far apart and it's way out in the country. And if I go visit him and I take a walk down that country road, I'm kind of scared, you know, like somebody driving by in one of these pickup trucks, they can hit me over the head and I'm gone forever.
Spoken like a true city girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, everybody thinks Minneapolis is so dangerous. It's like, I don't want to be walking in the country out in Texas. Ah! You know, some of those houses, I'm like, what are they doing in there? It looks like a, you know, a meth factory, you know? Here. So it's scary to me to think about, you know, what I'll have to do as he, you know, if he falls down and can't do something, I mean, I'm going to have to be the one that's there. I have a brother, but he lives in Ohio and I'm the one who's going to be more involved. So that new role for me is scary. My mom's already passed, so that's why he's living alone. And I have a cousin that lives in the same town with her husband and her adult son. And she will frequently text me all these very stressed out texts. And it's really not good for me, you know, to get these texts from her because it's all about her fears. Like I think she feels because she's the one in town that she's responsible for him and she doesn't want that, you know, like she wishes that I would come and take him and bring him back to Minnesota with me. Well, that's not going to happen. You know, he doesn't want to live in Minnesota. So that stresses me out too. It's like, so she doesn't want him to depend on her, which she really can't because she and her husband have terrible health. My dad is much healthier than them, but he's older and more frail.
Mhm.
Anyway, so that's my thing.
Does she know that that you're not depending on her?
I have said things to her like, I can't remember one of my, you know, oh, no, I guess I haven't had a big conversation. I should just call her and say, you know, please don't feel like you're responsible for him. I mean, I know he, you know, he wants to spend more time with you, but it's not I mean, I think that they do plenty for him. You know, I should probably have a conversation with her about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were talking about journaling in general, but there are lots of ways to journal. And the big deal now is the bullet journal, which if you're familiar with Second Brain, the bullet journal is kind of like that. It's not a format that I enjoy, but there are a lot of people who do because they keep their calendar there, their to-do list, and their daily entries right in one place. And they have an index at the beginning so you can find it. Just reminded me of, I used to teach time management for Franklin Covey planners. And it was kind of a myth that you could organize yourself that way. There are people that do, but not me. I have a niece that's all color coded and all these things. And she has a planner, a paper planner. And yeah, she's very organized. And I admire people who can be that way. but it just kind of doesn't work for me. But there are people who do like the bullet journal, and there's a lot written about it. And the guy that invented it, he has a book, which I read, and I still am not doing the bullet journal, but lots of people do. And I think Sharon tried it. You didn't you, Sharon?
I do. I've been using it for about 3 years. And the first year I tried it in the method that Ryder, and I forget his last name, the first name is Ryder, recommends with all of the sections and cross-referencing everything. And mine has evolved over the 3 years that I've been doing it. And what I find, I leave a lot of what he does out, but I do create my own monthly and weekly calendar, and I do keep track of things. And it's kind of like writing for me, but I kind of discovered that very recently, that by putting these things down by hand, creating a calendar every week by hand, and reminding myself of what it is I need to do, and making a little list of things. And I also track some things that are important to me. I'm not a fanatic about it, so a lot of my little boxes don't get filled in. But it is a reminder to me about what I think is important, and then what I actually put my time to. So I have a modified method of bullet journaling, and I'll just say that I liken it to writing in a journal, like we're doing today.
That's so interesting to me. That's probably the kind of journaling I know the least about, but I'm a huge calendar keeper. I was a big Franklin Covey girl for most of my life, and then I found my own sort of way. But I kind of keep my lists and track things, and so I always have my calendar each day that I sort of reference that kind of helps guide me through my day. And then I have my journaling, but my journaling seems to be a lot of these things. Like I've got, our notes from today, and I've got my little ticket stubs and things, in here from the trip to Cancun. And I've got, quotes, and I don't know, what do you call those little things you get in Chinese cookies? And they,
Fortunes.
I kind of have everything in my journal. It's just the place that I put anything that I don't want to have here, anything,
Mhm.
So,
I have a friend who keeps a sort of a similar to a bullet journal. She uses a folder, like it's cloth, and she can insert, so it's a heavy cloth, and it has bands so that she can insert smaller notebooks. And I'm thinking like the Moleskine small notebooks that are, say, 40 pages each, and they have a soft cover, paper cover. And so she's got several of them, and she uses each one for a different thing, but she keeps them all in the same place by containing them within this cover, or full, this binder in a sense, that is easy to carry around. And so she keeps one for her business, and she keeps one for her daily stuff. And if she has a project, and she likes to knit, and so she has one whole little, and it's like, again, it said 40 pages, and it's not necessarily confined or constrained by the year, but it's more of an ongoing record of what she's doing in her knitting, or things that she's learning, or what's going on in her business life, or whatever. She makes and sells hand-bound paper. She calls them books, but she makes them for a lot of events and sells those. So, and I'm kind of intrigued by her traveler's journal and these little moleskin soft covered mini notebooks that she puts in there. So I don't know if I'm going to change what I'm doing, but I saw it as a kind of a neat alternative.
they sell something like that on Amazon. I bought one for each of my kids and myself. I was using that one last year, and it's just like a leather cover, and it's got a couple of rubber bands built into it. And then you can buy the little insert ones, and they can be blank or lined or dotted.
Yep.
And then you kind of use them for different things. And it even has a little pouch for your pen or your ruler or your highlighter in the front.
Yeah, sounds very much like what she is using. And then she
Yeah.
can just change them out when
Yeah.
when they're full or whatever, and keep all
Yeah.
of her things like that.
Yeah.
And who makes that, Kimberly?
You know, I'm pretty sure I can find it here, and
Oh, that's okay. I just thought you might just know.
well,
You know
there's-
everything.
Oh, but I do like that. I do actually have a journal for my knitting. I'm also a big knitter and I like to sew, but I tried keeping a journal for that, and it's like, I'd so much rather just be knitting that I don't want to journal about knitting. So the journal has like 3 pages in it that I wrote a little bit, and I ended up just writing on my patterns. So I write on the pattern about who I made it for and when, and I didn't want to have to go look at it in a separate journal. So whoever inherits my knitting books is going to get the benefit of all those notes.
So the bullet journal is one way. And stream of consciousness is what Julia Cameron is talking about, where you just sit down and start to write. And the morning pages, of course, was her big deal, but she has a lot of other things in there. One of the things I liked about her style also was it's not just that. She has the artist date, where you actually make a date with yourself to go buy art supplies. And I thought, okay, this is dangerous. But I think thinking of yourself in a certain way, when you're thinking about writing or about drawing or about all these other things, you have to remember that you are an artist. You are an artist. And maybe you're not a fine artist, but you're creative. You want to do things differently. And the stream of consciousness is just sitting down to write. And I don't do that anymore, really. I do morning pages every once in a while, but most of the time there's something I want to talk to myself about.
Mhm.
And that's a good way to have a good conversation with yourself, because you think things in your head and then it goes away, and then maybe you'll come back to it when it bothers you again. But actually making a date with yourself to talk to yourself about something is really, really helpful for me. And to sit down and just think things will come to you, that doesn't work for me. I mean, it does it in morning pages. It's just something you're doing to get things out of your head so you can start your day clear. And I don't think it takes 3 pages, but it takes me a long time to write 3 pages. And art journaling, I know some really wonderful art journalers. I don't have enough. I do some of these things. I mean, some of my journals have little photos in them, ticket stubs and stickers, and I do some collage in some of my my journals, because I don't use like Wolfskin journals anymore. I use artist sketch pads, so that I have room to do things. And so I don't write in line notebooks anymore. A little bit. I have one that I still keep, but mostly I'm doing the doodle just to get started. And like, questions. And I do a lot of writing in there also. But I always leave myself open to the fact that if I don't feel like writing that day, that's okay. I'm looking at, I also have things that, like, I'm trying to work things out. So I'll do a, not exactly a visual map, but, you know, I'll have something in there. And then down below, what I'm thinking about. They're not as handy, but I do have smaller ones that I have around. So I have this size.
So there's this bullet journal type of thing that you have written that's up on the screen right now. There's like a business bullet journal that I use that incorporates some of these, like a lot of these formats, and it's kind of neat. It's called the High Performance Planner,
Mhm.
but it has spaces for journaling and stuff in it. I'll go grab it and show you what it looks like, but it actually has, it's real good for the OCD in me. It organizes. I just got my new one to start in the next year, and it asks you morning questions, evening questions, and then it also has the planner piece in it. It has a list area. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
I put the link to the travel journal I was talking about. It's
I
like
saw
$8 or
that.
$9 on Amazon. It's in the chat.
Uh-huh.
It's not the exact, mine looks just like that, but it's actual leather. The ones I got for my kids were embossed, but they just have, and they have other ones that are like 3-ring binders, but I don't like those. I like the little moleskin ones that are, you know, I drew in the one that had blank pages and I wrote in the one that had, but then you
Right.
can buy them for like $7. You can buy a stack of the different types of little notebooks.
Yeah, I have, I tend to kind of combine the art journaling and just regular journaling. But
Yeah, that's what-
I stick things in there too. And that's the nice thing about a ring binder, about a spiral binder, is that it has some space so that you can have those things in there. I do pockets a lot. I'll just paste an envelope in there. And so I have a pocket,
Mhm.
and yeah. There's Jamian with her bosom.
Oh, I couldn't, sorry. I couldn't find where I set the journal at quick enough, but I'm gonna find the Amazon link. I get it at Barnes and Noble though. That's normally where I find it at, but I know they have it on Amazon, but it's called the High Performance Planner. And I like the black covered one version of it. And they have a new one every year that comes out. And every year that it comes out, it doesn't add to it. It just adjusts some of the questions that are in the performance diary.
I also have a calendar, which is not really a planner, but this is the ritual one. So it has, what I like about it is it has the beginning of the month, it has a tarot spread that you can put in there, like the year one. I copied this and did it on a different page, so I wouldn't have it in there, but you know, it's all in what works for you. This is not a journal for me, but it has places where you can put things in, so it's a separate kind of thing. They're asking different questions. And it also has, you know, the moon phases and things like that. And the dreaded Mercury retrograde, which just got over. So, and list making is another way. One of the ones I saw is to write 7 things I saw, 7 things you did, 1 thing you heard, and 1 thing to draw. And that's it. Now, Mickey has taken that quite a step further. She does 10 things. And she does quite a good job on it.
10 things to what?
Mickey has 10 things that she does, that she saw every day. She has her Facebook posts.
Oh, uh-huh. That's right.
Yeah. And, but, you know, that list making in general is a good way to go. You can just sit down and make a list. One of the things people make a list of is everything that you want to see, do, or think. You know, just a whole list of it. So some people have a bucket list. Some people have a list of books, a list of all kinds of things that they want to keep track of. And then I saw the 1 line a day journal, where you just write 1 line a day to the pure essence of your day. Maybe what you're grateful for, maybe a quote that you like, a memory or a milestone or something that just made you laugh. I can't find any jokes in mine now, but I tend to write those in there too if I hear a good joke.
I've done that before. I actually have a journal I love that I've had for years and years that's just things your kids have said. I haven't written in it in a
Uh-huh.
long time, but I used to write down things my kids said. I still have that sitting on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
And those the 3 or the 5 year ones where it just gives you a little space to write like things you're grateful for, or
Uh-huh.
just to write whatever. I've done that a few times. I don't think I've ever made it through the whole number of years. I've done it for like 2 or 3,
Uh-huh.
and then I've sort of been done with it.
And a
Oh, I
lot of people
see.
combine scrapbooking with journaling. And scrapbooking is mostly visual. It has a lot of possibilities, but it's also kind of it can get to be expensive, in my opinion, if you're actually doing scrapbooking and a lot of the other things that go with it. But yeah, I used to keep scrapbooks when I was a kid. Not like this, but you know, the whole industry that came up around scrapbooking was just booming for a long time. And then it kind of died off. The places that you could go to buy some of those things aren't there anymore. I can't remember the name of the big one. But anyway, you could go buy all kinds of clever things there, not necessarily for a scrapbook, but you could put them in your journal too. They had pockets and they had just a whole bunch of things that were kind of cool that people would put in their scrapbooks, but you could put it in your journal too. So this is a journal entry I did for 2020. 2020 was a year I was so glad to be done with. I fell and broke my neck in January of that year. And I was in the hospital for about 7 or 8 days. And then I had to go into transitional care because I had also broke my wrist. And so I needed a lot more care than I could get at home. And when I was there for 30 days, and then I went home. But when I got out, everything was closed. I mean, there was COVID started. So that was a whole year. It was just crazy. And, you know, they had COVID and we had George Floyd. And it was like a nuts year. I don't know how you could write enough about it, about how it was, but all the things, these are just some of the things that I thought of when I was doing this. So it's just a way of keeping track. Plus you get a double page. So there's a lot of popular subjects to write about. Gratitude. Now, you know, people think that gratitude is hard, but there's so many ways that it doesn't have to be a huge thing to be grateful for. I mean, some days you're grateful for water, you know, and I think it's important to remember that gratitude isn't always about big things. And, you know, you don't have to think of, I had a list of areas that you could be grateful for instead of, I don't know what I did with that one. I didn't say it was organized. I have been, but not lately. Anyway, they had someplace that I was looking had a list of areas in which you could think about gratitude, like gardening, movies, books, ideas, just things. And stress release is another popular subject, to just sit and write about the things that are bothering you. And business, of course, and leadership. Now, business is really an excellent way. Journaling is an excellent thing for the business, because you could sit down and write about, what do you want your business to look like? What does it do? And who are you in the business? And what do you want to be? And just, I think, getting really clear about what your business is and who you want to help, or what problems you want to solve. It makes it a lot easier to figure things out. And leadership, there's a lot written about leadership, and your leadership. Maybe you want to write about what your style is like, and what you want different, or maybe great leaders you've known. And purpose is always a good one, because I think people think that if you don't have a purpose like Mother Teresa, that you don't really have a purpose. But that's not true. Your purpose actually is already written. Your purpose here on earth is to bring joy to yourself and others. And anything beyond that is kind of icing on the cake. So it's purpose is not necessarily this huge social thing. Sometimes it is, and part of your purpose might be service in some other areas, but people get hung up on purpose and on purpose. So I think it's really important to think about, what you're here for. Self-love is a big one for women, I think. I think we do things for everybody else and forget about what we should be doing for ourselves to make our own lives easier. And, like just having fun, just for yourself. And rituals, I don't know if you have rituals. I have rituals. I have some I like to do, writing I like to do around the full moon. So I have, a candle and some crystals that I have there for that. There are other rituals, maybe business rituals that you want to institute. It's not a woo-woo thing, but it works. It's different from a habit in that it has a spiritual aspect to it. And then the spiritual part of it. I don't know. I say spiritual and not religious because I think it covers more territory. It can be religious, but not necessarily. And morning and evening pages. The evening pages I did for a long time, where you would try and, kind of set up for the next day. And mindfulness, adventure, yes, adventure. And mindfulness are other things to write about. So I have a lot of prompts. We could try a couple. So some that celebrate who you are. 20 things that make you smile, your favorite recipes. I just made these up for you. Quotes that inspire you, positive affirmations that build you up, your best birthday memories, 10 things that make you mad, new holiday traditions to start. When you can't sleep, you like to blank, and 20 small acts of self-care that nurture your spirit. And if you want to pick one, we could write on it. But I have others. I can go on with the others too. Whoops, that was the end. But we're not at the end. So did you want to do some writing or not? Yeah. So you want to pick one from door 1 or door 2?
20 small acts of self-care that nurture your spirit.
Karen, can you show the relationship slide again? I'm just
Sure.
trying to take a picture of it. Thank you. I got the other ones. Thanks.
Okay. So how long do you want to write? Because I have my handy little timer here. You can have whatever time you want.
I'd like to see the other headings on the other slides. I was just curious. You have like topics.
Yeah.
Dig into your goals and dreams.
And then document your memories and history. These are kind of like a time capsule. The memories and history. Oops, that's the end. The black screen is the end. So I don't know which screen you'd like me to stay on, but
I think one said like dig into your goals.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Jamie, did you say something?
It said like dig into your goals. I don't think I got that slide. No, this one.
should we just take 3 to 4 minutes to write?
Yeah, we could do more than one. Oops. long
I
one.
really like your lists, Karen. Is there any way you could like send us those 3
Yeah.
lists that you have?
Yeah, I can extract them from the PowerPoint and put them in a PDF.
That would
I
be
like that
really
too.
Yeah. So should we take about 8 minutes? Or
Yeah,
is that too long? 8 minutes?
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, we're back.
That was a short 8 minutes.
Well, it was is 8 minutes on my power.
No, I believe you. I just am saying that it seemed to go by quite fast.
This is one of those timers that shows you how much time is left.
Mm.
There it is. So,
We believe you.
yeah. Anybody want to share what they've written?
Share. So I wrote about two different things since we had a little bit longer time. The first one was I wrote about positive affirmations that build me up. So over the years, I'm a real estate agent, and so things can be very, very stressful, can have upset clients or difficult situations. And so what has helped me over the years, and of course, the longer I've been in the business, you know, the more confident and everything. But I mean, this really, really helped me out when I had like a difficult client or an unhappy client or something, you know, I just need to work out a situation. I would sit down and write out my affirmations. It was very helpful. I would say, you know, I'm a good agent. I'm helping my clients to make good decisions. You know, I'm always looking out for my clients' best interests. I'm the adult in the room. I call my clients peers. I can handle any situation. I help my clients make good decisions. I help them make difficult decisions. Clients trust me. So just a lot like that. And it just reinforces, you know, the good that I'm doing for them and helps to calm me down. So that's been helpful over the years. So that's why I picked that. And then another one was a trait I admire in others. Well, of course, I have a huge list of traits I admire in others. So I thought, well, okay, so I wrote this big list. And then one that I picked out to kind of write a little bit more was I admire compassion in others. I admire people that can see, you know, what another person's going through or can put themselves in another person's shoes, you know, what it might be like to be a single mom. And I've never had to go through this, but a single mom with no support, no job, an abusive boyfriend, stuff like that, that some people just can't relate to, like, oh, they're just lazy or something. And I think the show Made was just so excellent on showing that situation. So just compassion in general, I really admire and appreciate.
Anyone else?
I wrote
can
about.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll wait. Go ahead.
No. Well, just briefly, I picked the topic of creating a new holiday traditions. And this stems from the fact that my kids are older now, and I have grandchildren who are, some of them, one of them is 19, but the youngest one is 10. And so I've always felt like it was time for them to take over some of the responsibilities of hosting, you know, like the holiday, a Christmas holiday or a traditional holiday. And so recently, and more since COVID happened, they've actually, my son has done that. And I really appreciate his effort, and he's has put so much effort into doing that. But it's also meant inviting his wife's family, which I haven't appreciated because it takes away from how I've always celebrated family, which is with my children and my grandchildren. And I don't like the extra family in there. And I do my best. I just don't like it. And so I'm trying to come to terms with how to formulate new holidays, or just to change my attitude about what a holiday means. And I didn't get too far, but that's what I was writing about.
Yeah, I think that's something that happens to all of us. That happened when we sold our house. We couldn't host things anymore. So it took a while. Yeah. That's funny about About the other family though.
My
Vivian,
sister,
you were talking.
my sister was just telling me that Sharon, both of her daughters just had babies 2 weeks apart. And one of the daughters, his family lives overseas. So like the family's not really there or involved. And the other daughter, the family is very involved. And my sister just really doesn't like it. And she feels the same way. And I guess once my kids get to that stage in life, it's going to be interesting. I wonder if I'm gonna feel
It
that-
is. It is.
feel
My
that-
my daughter in Minnesota who's having the baby, she lives with her mother-in-law, she and her husband. And I'm friends with the mother-in-law, but it's different because I'm an extremely considerate person and she just doesn't really think about others. So I live here in California and my ex-husband lives here in California and she planned a baby shower for the middle of October. It's like, so we're gonna fly out for a baby shower? So I was like, okay. Anyway, I offered to my daughter, I said, how about if we just do a little one when we get there? But I'm so much more social and so connected to my Minnesota people. It's turning out to be the bigger one. So we're going to do one in December too. There's just going to be 2 showers. And I texted with the other gal to make sure, we're all good, but it's just funny. It's sometimes the hardest part of dealing with your grown-up kids is the other family.
Yeah, I'm thus far, I haven't had too much having to do that because, yeah, so we'll see. But my sister, she was just saying that she was just crying. She was like, I didn't want the other grandmother in the room when my daughter was having a baby. So it was difficult, but yeah, so I understand. That's funny. I actually wrote about 2 things, so I guess I'll just pick one of them. So my favorite holidays, your favorite holidays one. Holidays for me, the ones that are my favorites and that are traditional to me are very important because they're usually wrapped around like my mother. And even though I've tweaked some of those, we still do a lot of the traditions. So I just kind of wrote about the holiday season because my mom traveled all over and we always went other places. I kind of am somebody who celebrates Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and everything in between when it comes in that holiday season time. And so I wrote about each of those like celebrations and what they mean and how over the years they've come the same with my kids, them being important. I remember, holiday season starts at Thanksgiving, and I remember the first year I moved to Charlotte, my kids came out to visit for Thanksgiving, and they got up in the morning at about 7:00 in the morning, and they were like, why isn't there any food cooking or anything? Like, what's going on? And because I always host Thanksgiving in my family. And I was like, well, I was just thinking that like we'd make something small and my kids were so upset. And it just reminded me like how important the holidays have been for me. They were for me as a kid. They are for me as an adult, and how even as my kids are big boys and adults and going off on their own, they're important. So that holiday season is one of them. Valentine's Day is like Christmas in my household. So, and that's also my mom's birthday. And my mom made Valentine's Day like it wasn't her birthday. And so we always woke up to like a love breakfast, and she just prepared like all this breakfast food, but then there was like cakes and cookies and all petite fours and all type of stuff that she would make. And then we would get flowers and chocolates and teddy bears and usually a new outfit. And so in my household, my kids always get their Valentine stuff. I'm always doing Valentine's is just huge. It's like Christmas. I'm like, I don't know, do they have I'm like Santa Cupid and Valentine's. So I wrote about like why that is and why that's like a holiday and like why that's important. And then the last holiday is my birthday because everyone's birthday should be a holiday. I know people say it's like birthday, but it's really like holiday, and my birthday should be like a national holiday. I think everybody should get like paid time and a half for that day if you work. Like, and so I wrote about how that makes me feel and why birthdays are so important to me and why it's important for me to celebrate the people around me's birthday because like that's your day. Like it only comes once a year, and if we don't celebrate you no other time through the year, we must celebrate for our birthdays.
Wow.
I like your enthusiasm for holidays.
Yeah, me too.
And I totally agree with you about birthdays.
Yeah, like I will kind of stop being your friend if you don't like acknowledge me on my birthday. Like
So
set
are
your
you gonna-
alarm.
You're gonna tell us when your birthday is so we don't screw up?
March 1st. You haven't screwed up yet, Karen. You always send me a message. That's good enough. Like it
Well,
doesn't have
you know,
be
I have a
extra.
I have a granddaughter whose birthday is on March 1st too, so you're in good company.
Oh, see, we'll never
Yeah.
you'll always remember that.
My
Oh.
Amazon granddaughter, they're both that way. She's 6'4".
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So yeah, but holidays are like they're such a emotional memory for me. And it was always like decorated, and we always went and participated in the community. And it seems like on holidays, like people feel more loving and giving. And it feels like
Yeah.
if I have to deal with 11 and a half months of evil in this world, I can get 2 weeks of stars and sprinkles and bells and snowfalls and hot chocolate and cookies and Santa Claus, damn it.
Amen.
yeah.
You know what? I literally intentionally do all my Christmas shopping and I'm done by Thanksgiving. And then I just enjoy the entire time from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Like I still end up, getting baubles and bits, but that way I can cook and have cocoa and go to the tree farm and do like all the stuff.
Yeah.
And unlike you, I do all the holidays. It's like, I don't care if it's your holiday or my holiday, I'm a holiday.
Right.
I totally feel you.
Because you know how many like great meals you get, like the Hanukkah meals, you get like I mean, it's like the best, like, and everybody has wine and drinks. Like, how could you ever like, how do you not like the holidays? Even if you don't participate and celebrate, you should just participate.
Mhm.
Thanks, Jamian. Kimberly, did you have something?
Yeah, I wish I could write as much as Jamian does in 8 minutes, but I just did a list, and actually I was pretty surprised. I did 20 small acts of self-care that nurture your spirit. And I thought I got to 20 and I kept going to see how many I could do in 8 minutes. And I made 36. I didn't even know I had
Wow.
36 little things for self-care. So anyway,
All right. Can you tell us a couple?
sure. Well, number 1 was a hot, luxurious bubble bath, a carefully curated cup of tea, hot, strong coffee, playing my crystal singing bowls, a mani-pedi, sitting down to knit, a beautifully arranged meal, tea and toast, a sweet little call to a friend, journal time, coloring, reading, walking in a beautiful place, dancing to turned up songs on the radio, grounding myself with my feet in the grass, stretching and feeling my body, doing a card pull or a tarot read, lighting a candle, juicing, baking, making lemonade, something nurturing in the kitchen, a little facial or skincare routine, a hot shower, using my phone and social media as a little love bomb to find encouragement and redirection, petting my dog, meditation. Anyway, kind of went on from there.
Oh, wow.
A walk
That's a
at the
great
beach.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you need any self-care, apparently I've got a good list here.
Well, I just did a short piece about what I admire, and what I admire in others is consideration in a world that seems so broken and rude. I really admire considerate people, people who are kind just because that's who they are. There are a lot of other traits I admire: creativity, organization, positivity. The list could go on forever, but I truly admire considerate people. You can feel yourself relax around them because they consider how you might be feeling or experiencing something. I especially appreciate it when someone sees me looking up at a top shelf in a grocery store and says, "Can I get that down for you?"
Mhm.
Yeah. So there are a lot. I was at Costco not too long ago, and I was going to get a mouthwash, and they had this huge big display of Listerine mouthwash, which is what I wanted. And they're in twos, they're packaged of two. And if I took the top one, if I could reach it, which I didn't think I could, I would probably bring about 100 of them down with me. And then what happened to be a gentleman standing there, and he says, "Well, I'm getting one of these. Would you like one?" And he did. So I really appreciate that. Much more so now that I'm older. Well, thank you all for coming. It's been a treat. And
Yes, I appreciated this. Thank you for doing it, Karen.
yeah. So I learned a lot about you guys. I like that. Happy journaling. I'll send you those pages.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.